talk more about, what am I missing here?
What I want to do is bring it back to say, you know, we were just talking about buy and hold short-term rentals. Cool strategy you brought to our listeners today. Any sort of parting suggestions, and you're going to say, well, you know, you need someone to manage it like me, probably need a good handyman service, which I'll help you with, you know, whatever, and then we'll actually turn the time over to him to talk about this.
All right, sounds good.
All right, cool, let's roll. We'll put 10 minutes on board. Welcome back to our last segment of Rush Hour Radio. Thank you so much if you've been listening, and if you're just tuning in, we've been talking with Downtown Dan Remax Executive, and we've been talking about buy and hold real estate investments, particularly focused around short-term rentals. Short-term rentals would be like an Airbnb setup or a VRBO or something like that, where you can buy properties, furnish them, and have people come in and rent for potentially higher cash flow and a larger profit margin. Dan, you've shared this cool strategy with our listeners today. Any sort of parting thoughts that you want to share related to the investor tips we've talked about today?
No, the short-term rental aspects, whether it's Airbnb or HomeAway or whatever the guests come through, you're going to see a lot of guests. What people don't realize about the short-term rental thing is that the average person in Charlotte, if you have kind of an urban type of property or a very convenient property in a great location, is that the average person is staying 2.5, 3 weeks. They're not just 2-night weekend things. That's what everybody imagines, because they're imagining going somewhere for a weekend to rent Airbnb. And that is a part of the industry. It's probably 50% of the nights. But here in Charlotte, with the properties that I have, if you have a 2 or 3 bedroom, not too big, not too small, imagine if you just sold your house, closed on it, you need a place while they're building you a new house, you need a place for 90 days. If you're a contractor and you come here to work for Bank of America or a traveling nurse, or you want to work for Duke Power or at the racetrack, or you're here for a construction project or an infrastructure project, you come here and you need to spend 45, 60, 90 days in area. And for the past 100 years, everybody's been staying in the Fleabag Hotel down the street because they're watching their expenses. But hotels are nice, and you got a little 300 square foot room. Now you have a 500 square foot condo or a 1,100 or 1,400 square foot house, and you can have your family and bring someone in, and you're living and feeling comfortable whenever you're not working. So there's a lot of contractors that do this, and it's actually a lot longer term stay. So it's delivering to the marketplace the needs of people, not just for travel, but for all kinds of.
Yeah, no, I mean, awesome information. I appreciate you kind of, like I said, bringing this creativity back into the real estate world. We're gonna sort of shift gears here a little. We've had Preston Sandlin here in the studio with us here this morning. Preston, you brought some great stuff from the home inspection company that you work for, pulled down from your website. Sure. And it's kind of a cheat sheet, if you will, on really kind of a life of the key elements of your home. Tell me about what this is, and maybe we can go through some of the key elements. We've got about 6-7 minutes of the show left.
Sure.
And we'll make sure we educate them.
Well, and if you think about it, it kind of dovetails with what Dan said. I mean, if you're evaluating a house to flip or to rent, you know, a house, just like a car, you know, we talked classic cars earlier today. If you show me a classic car, I'll show you a car that doesn't have the original tires, belts, because things wear out and you've got to replace them. Some things last longer than others. It's the same thing with a house. There's certain components that wear out or have life expectancies. And that's kind of what the sheet is that's here on what the average life expectancy is. But before we get into it, I do want to say that when you perform a home inspection, we do not talk about life expectancies. I mean, because we're just inspecting the house for is it functioning, that thing. And you can have components that go way beyond life expectancy, and you can't make a seller replace that just because it is. But it is something to be aware of and have this sheet, because, you know, if you're going to buy and hold, you know, rent this house for 20 years, I can tell you, you're going to put a new roof on at some point, you know. So anyway, you know, we could go through a couple. It's broke down by plumbing, garage, roofing, electrical, heating and air, and appliances. And you want to start with plumbing?
That sounds great. What are some of the main ones that our listeners might deal with?
Well, and if you look at this list, it really goes by when the house was built, what building material they were using. And like everything else, they try to get the cost down. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. I love copper plumbing, but it's so expensive,
Right.
If you get a house built before World War II, you're probably going to have galvanized. And even if you look on here, the life expectancy is 20 to 50 years. Well, it says it's used 1900 to 1950s.
Right.
Well, just do
So
the math on that right there.
You're out of age.
Yeah, you're already out of age, and that's true because it rusts. It rusts from the inside out, and most of that has been replaced. And they don't a lot of times just pull it all out. They'll just pipe around it. But what you'll see mostly now is the thing they're using a lot of now is PEX. There's some CPVC, which is pretty awesome. Not awesome, but it lasts 50 to 80 years. They're saying PEX is 40 years. Polybutylene, which they use in the 80s, is 50 to 80 years, but it depends on where you live. There's some problems with polybutylene, especially the first generation polybutylene. The fittings were not good.
I know our listeners are just riveted with polybutylene topic here.
No, yeah, it's
exciting stuff we're talking about.
The fittings were bad, and then the second problem with polybutylene is if you live in the city and you have chlorinated water, which most everybody lives in the city does, it's treated over time. That makes that polybutylene brittle. Would I buy a house with polybutylene piping? Yeah. I would just make sure that there's no present leaks, and I'd probably get a water filtration system to get some of that chlorine out of the water.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. Let's slide over to garage. What are some of the things in terms of life expectancy we need to be thinking about?
Garage doors. You need to keep those things lubricated. It's a lot of moving parts and very mechanical if you think about it. And if you go up and down a lot on those, and especially my old house, I didn't have an outside garage door person door going to my garage. It was only the vehicle door. So I always used the vehicle door for me to walk in and out. So I was up and down a lot. And then one morning that spring broke, and I had to get bent the garage. It was like $900 to get that thing fixed. And,
right.
It came out right away, but keep them lubricated. But they don't last forever. If you keep them lubricated, you can make them last a little bit longer. Roofing. It depends on the color of your roof, how long it lasts, and the type of shingles. Architectural shingles last longer than the regular shingles. Asphalt composition shingles, which are both of those, are primarily what's used in our area.
Yep.
Architectural shingles probably go about 40 years. The non-architectural shingles somewhere around 20. And again, the color, if it's lighter, it'll last a little bit longer. Darker is because they're gonna dry out and they're gonna curl. When you see a roof that's starting to curl or cup, it's about had it because it's lost all its flexibility and it's going to start cracking and leaking. Now, other types of roofs, slate, metal, clay tiles, last a lot longer. They're kind of rare in our area. We went to Europe, man, they had clay tile everywhere there.
That's cool.
But you can't just put clay tile where you used to have asphalt composition shingles because of the weight. You're going to have to redo something with the roof because it's a lot of weight on that.
Wow. Why don't we hit heating and air since that's another common one for our area?
Yeah, heating and air is, you usually have a combination where we live, and it's either going to be electric or gas for the heat, and then, the air conditioning, and they utilize the same fan and the same ductwork for both systems. For a long time, everybody would say, gas is better. Gas heats up, the recovery time's a lot, but it's funny, a couple of years ago, the gas prices went up, and everybody's like switching over to electric, yeah. Depending on what type of system it is, gas furnaces last a little bit longer than heat pumps typically. Air conditioning, there's just like cars, you have different models that are higher end and last a little bit longer.
Sure.
Typically, if you have an upstairs and downstairs, you're going to have a separate air conditioning unit for both and heating unit. It's harder to push cold air than hot air. So typically, if you have an up and downstairs, the upstairs one's going to wear out first because it's going to work harder, each year. But recommend getting your system clean and keep those each year, get it serviced, and keep those filters changed. That'll make it last a lot longer.
Perfect. I think that's about all we have time for in terms of your cheat sheet for sort of lifespan on these. Where can our friends and our listeners find this information?
Yeah, awesome. Go to homeinspectioncarolina.com It says Realtor's Corner on there, but I need to change it. It's for everybody. And there's a whole lot of other lists, some checklists, inspection checklists, all kinds of stuff. You're welcome to download it, print it out, use it however you like.
Perfect. Preston, what would be the phone number for our listeners to catch up with you if they need an inspection performed on their house before they sell?
Okay, 704-542-6575 or homeinspectioncarolina.com.
Dan, you're the last man up here. You have agreed for our listeners listening to the show here today that you're willing to actually come out and do a free consultation to an investor wannabe or an existing investor, right? That you may want to talk about this new strategy of short-term rentals. Where can they get you via your phone number to connect with you?
Well, my phone number is 704-451-6003, and you can hear that message they were talking
The
about.
Superman Dan message,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
awesome.
what I'll be glad to do is sit down and talk with anybody that is currently an investor, has a house, and is considering being a landlord, and maybe you take a moment out and take a look at what being a short-term rental landlord would be like, and maybe it might be able to be more profitable for you, maybe more rewarding, has some other advantages we didn't even have the time to talk about, but I'll be glad to talk to you, bring my experience of a number of
A few short 31 years.
yeah, but I've I've had 20 or so Airbnb rentals, hosted 400 sets of guests, 5-star Superhost, and I know how to deliver the product, the marketing, the things that you need to do, including professional photographers and interior design. You need to make the experience right so that you can earn really good money. There's even a new TV show out just covering this type of thing.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming. And I know you said you throw in a $25 discount on a home inspection, Preston, if anyone uses Dan's services. So, Dan, your phone number, did you say 451-6003?
704-451-6003.
Thank you, guests, for listening. Again, this is Chris Reshitar, your host of ReshAir Radio. If you need anything, you can find our show in its entirety at reshairradio.com or give me a shout at 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on, and y'all have a good week. We'll be back next Sunday morning at 10 o'clock.